Alrighty, welcome everybody back to another episode of the Ball Knower Podcast Team Preview Series. I'm your host, as always, David Miller, joined today by three very special guests. To my left, we have Colten. To the bottom left, we have Noah. And then below me, without his camera on, we have Cass. So first of all, guys, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it.
Absolutely wonderful.
Fantastic.
Awesome. All right. We were kind of talking about it before we started recording, but the best place to start here to talk about the Titans, A.J. Brown is gone. So I don't have a transition for it. If you guys just want to talk about it. Yeah.
I think ouch about sums it up.
Yeah. With looking what we got, as draft compensation, it kind of see, I don't even ow.
I mean, what was the trade? I know you got a first round pick out of him. Were there any other picks involved?
It was a first and a third, and if I'm not wrong, I believe we either traded the third or used the third on Malik. I want to say that's right.
Okay. Wasn't there the second was involved? That's how we got Roger McCreary.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Let's look this up because I don't actually know off the top of my head either. I was gonna say because the only thing that comes to mind when you think about that trade, at least for me, is you traded A.J. Brown for worse A.J. Brown in terms of who you drafted to replace him.
Nowhere. I think that even as hopeful as I am, I see Treylon Burks being N'Keal Harry.
Ooh.
I really do. I don't like that, but I do.
The sad thing is I don't disagree.
I've heard nothing but bad stuff about him all offseason.
Mm-hmm. All right. I'm going to give me a minute to step up on my soapbox and talk about A.J. Brown.
Go for it.
I was hoping we'd talk about this, and maybe it's an unpopular opinion, but I think in the aftermath, when we're talking draft night, and I open Twitter, and it's Titans Twitter is ablaze, 2 picks before the Titans go on the clock, we're thinking we're about to get Treylon Burks to add to the core of, add him in with A.J. Brown, right? And obviously, some things have been brewing up to that point. I think it's important to spell the whole scene out when it comes to the A.J. Brown story, because I'll just go ahead and unpopular opinion as it may be, I'm happy, okay? And I know I'm probably in a small minority of Titans fans, but I do feel like we've got more people coming to the side of reason in this situation, okay? I probably shouldn't have worded it happy. I am content with the situation, okay?
Oh, you shouldn't. You're right.
Let me say this. I am not nearly as happy with the receiving core of Bobby Trees and Treylon Burks and Nick Westbrook-Akina, whatever, than I was last year with AJ and Julio. Let's just get that out of the way. However, I do think it's important to note that the situation with AJ had just kind of gone so awry. I don't know that there was any kind of real fix to it. I think as a fan, I had every reason to think that J-Rob, our general manager, was going to get this done. I think they wanted him to be a Titan. I really do. What I think the situation was an athlete who let the agent do a little bit of talking for him, probably a little bit too much. I think maybe things just kind of spiraled out of control. I think AJ wanted to be a Titan. I think the Titans wanted AJ to be a Titan. It was just he was demanding money that, like it or not, you can't really allocate to him in a system where he's wanting top 5 money when he's not getting top 5 targets. He's not that he's not a great player. But what we saw of AJ, just thinking back, and maybe I'm an apologist because I've got to find a reason to be somehow content in all this. Otherwise, it's going to be a miserable season. But my thought process in all this was, I think Titans wanted to get it done. AJ kind of went rogue. That's in a report. I don't know how true everything of that is, but AJ kind of goes rogue on him. I think there was a little bit of immaturity that flared up. That's just how I see it. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am. But I don't think AJ was the same in year 3 that he was in years 1 and 2. And so whatever you want to call it, his little fit or tantrum, whatever he threw to get his contract, I think that would have lingered into camp. That would have turned into a distraction. So while I don't think that Treylon Burks is going to be A.J. Brown 2.0, despite popular opinion, or at least the opinion that Titans fans want to have, I think Treylon's going to be I don't want to say it's going to be a disappointment, but I could see it being a very disappointing rookie year. Again, that just depends on how much he's seeing the field. As of practice, OTAs, we don't know that he's going to see the field that often. I can't say that to this point. So I'm very scared to have Robert Woods coming off an ACL along with a asthma-riddled Treylon Burks as our top two receivers. But I think given the fact that draft night was coming, AJ was definitely – he had cut ties. I mean, what are you supposed to do if he's not going to talk back to you? They get a first-round offer from the Eagles. That second round, I don't know exactly the way the compensation worked out, but you basically netted the second that you had to give away for Julio. Unpopular opinion we can get to later. I don't think they did the right thing cutting Julio. I would have liked to see him one more year. I get some fans are probably fed up with him. That's fair. But given how everything transpired up to draft night, to be able to get a first-round pick, mind you, they weren't giving up the one they had later that they took, or whatever we did with the 26th pick, right? They were kind of feet to the fire, and they had to make a move. I think it was the best thing they could have done. Treylon was the last of that first crop of receivers on the board left, and you kind of had to go for it. Not that Treylon was not my favorite receiver in this class. I don't get the hype on him. I hope I'm wrong. But I think he was that last one in that first crop. And then what was the next guy? Christian Watson. Titans weren't very confident that obviously that he was going to be a good number 2 option. So I think the way things transpired.
I would have rather had Christian Watson. I'm not going to lie. I see him being way more fun to watch.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm more of a Watson guy myself as well. I wasn't a big Burks fan at all.
Not at all.
I wasn't big on Burks, and I wasn't big on Jahan Dotson, and I got a lot of shit for both of those claims because I just don't see it. Like Burks, he's like I said earlier, he's like worse. AJ Brown is what he's supposed to be. I don't see him hitting that. I don't think he's going to necessarily be N'Keal Harry either. I think you'll get him somewhere in the middle, but he's not somebody that blows me away. But I do agree, he was the last like top tier receiver on the board. You kind of had to take him at that point. I just don't love him as a prospect, although I do hope he succeeds because me and him are both asthmatic. I need more asthmatic representation in the NFL. But otherwise, I just don't see the hype. I don't get it. But I do agree in the sense that the Titans needed to move A.J. Brown because you're right, they're not a team that can really afford to pay a receiver that type of money with the way their offense functions. He's just not, I don't want to say important enough because he's a top 10 receiver, but like he's not worth it, kind of, so to speak, at least for them. Like any other team, absolutely. But for the Titans, it's a little bit different.
Okay, can I pose a question?
Go for it.
All right, so looking back on like everything we know about now about the Treylon pick, if like you could have it done your way, would you have went back and not taken a receiver in the first round? Because personally, I really like Sky Moore, person that Kansas City took in the second round. If you could switch it and go a different position in the first and maybe have the chance to get like somebody like a I don't know when Shakir went from Boise State.
Shakir went in like the 5th round. Shakir was a late pick.
And like, because that was a person I thought was a very athletic player coming out of college. But I was really high on Sky Moore. That's who I wanted Tennessee to get.
Yeah.
So I thought the smart idea would be to go with a different position because I think we need offensive line help. And I thought that's where we should have went in the first round.
You guys picked, what pick was Burks? I can't remember off the top of my head. What number pick?
18.
18?
18. Trevor
18 or 16,
Penning,
yeah.
18. Trevor Penning went the very next pick to New Orleans. And I liked him.
I'd rather have Burks than Penning, even as someone that doesn't like Burks too much. I just don't think Penning's going to be a good NFL tackle. I'm not very high on Penning at all.
Also,
Linderbaum would have been a good pick. What pick did
that's what I would have wanted.
Yeah, he went 25 to Baltimore.
What pick did the Chargers have? I can't remember if Zion Johnson went before or after that.
Zion went at 16. That's 17.
Okay.
That's who I.
Gotcha.
That's who we want. Yeah, I wanted Zion.
Zion's going to be a generational prospect.
That's exactly who I wanted. He went the pick before we drafted.
Okay.
And I got so mad at draft night.
Yeah.
As a former offensive lineman, I I love offensive line, and it's what I look at the most when I'm watching the game. I'm watching the offensive line, and I think that the Titans' offensive line gets more hate than it deserves. Um, but I want to ask you, um, where would we have played Penning at right tackle? Is that where we
Penning's more of a
Personally,
right
played
tackle than a
Penning?
left tackle in my eyes.
I would have liked. This is what I would have liked. I would have liked to play Penning at right tackle, and then you move Redunds to guard, which is what he kind of played at college, and he played guard some of his years at North Dakota State, right? I
Uh,
think so.
Yeah,
maybe I'm not
Okay.
sure.
I thought he came out of. I thought he came out of there as a tackle though.
He did. He played tackle. He might have played guard his earlier years, but he came out as a tackle.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw him as potentially being like a poor man's Luan. I still think he can do that.
I still
Just that
think
he
looking
was
at
hurt
like,
a lot.
yeah, looking at height and weight and everything, I really wish Isaiah Wilson could have worked out.
Yeah.
Like that would have been a mauler on the offensive line. You put him beside Lawan, who's known for talking, and then like you've got Lawan on one side who's talking the whole game, and then you got somebody on the other side you can't get by because he's 6'8" and like 360. It's crazy.
Mhm.
I think we'll look back and the Isaiah Wilson pick will burn this franchise so much more than we thought he would, even when they cut him. Because and we can get into this later, but the reason why I wanted them to go tackle, we've got to be thinking Taylor Lewan replacement coming up, someone in the wings. And that was just something where you were just looking for any kind of depth. Nicholas Petit Frere should be a good prospect, raw guy to develop, but again, you're kind of just at this point where within a couple of years, you're going to be replacing both starting tackles, and that's just not who's on the right side. I forget.
Redunds.
That's
There you go.
no. See, that's not. I'm not confident in that. It's just you don't have any one guy. There's no one guy on that line I'm more confident in than Nate Davis. But aside from him right now, we hope Lawan is back to pre-ACL form. We have no guarantee of that. I don't know, guys. It's just
I think he
really
was
hope.
I think he was really good towards the end of the season.
towards the end of the season. I agree. I think him playing Chandler Jones week 1 was almost human torture. I think that was
forgot about
not
that
fair
game
to him
completely.
at all. It wasn't fair at all.
Taylor's also a person I see because of the success he's had, like financially off the field with like all the stuff he's got going on with the podcast and everything. I feel like he could be a person that when he retires from Tennessee, whether he gets cut or something, he doesn't go anywhere else. I could see that because he has so much of his fan base based in Nashville that I could see this being like where he does something for the team once he retires.
Very possible. Looking at Petit Frere, though, he was somebody, at least upside-wise, I like a lot more than Penning. So if we really want to talk about getting a tackle, I think you made the right decision waiting and getting him. Just because Penning, I look at him as, I talked about this a lot in the Saints recording I did the other day. He's like a flag magnet, first of all. He does not know how to block unless he's holding somebody. He gets beat way too often. There was a play in the Senior Bowl where he straight up got pushed back into his quarterback and sacked his quarterback himself. Like his footwork's rough, his hand placement's rough. I just don't like him as a prospect very much. And Petit Frere, I mean, he's not quite as I don't want to say polished because I don't think Penning's quite polished either, but maybe Penning's a little more NFL ready. But Frere as a prospect, I think, is a lot better, and I like him a lot more. So I think you're better off there.
Keeping on the draft, who do y'all think our best pick overall was? Because I have my idea.
I have
But who do
two.
y'all think y'all was?
I have two. I love this Titans draft. There were two guys. I had a list of like my guys before the draft, and Chigakunkwo and God, I can't remember his name. Kyle Phillips. Those were two of my favorite prospects in the entire draft. I'm in love with both of them.
I love Kyle Phillips. My pick is Roger McCurry.
Valid.
I live 20 minutes from Auburn, so I've seen Roger a lot. I am content with him being a pro-level corner. And you pair him with Christian Fulton, Elijah Molden, Caleb Farley. This secondary, give it 2 years to develop. This secondary is going to be dangerous. And I'm talking like really good interceptions wise.
Yeah. McCreary was somebody I was pretty high on too. I think I had a first round grade on him when I was doing my draft evaluations. Can't find it for the life of me because I wanted to see what I had written down for him. But I was a fan of McCreary as well. He's a solid corner, and I think day one he'll be a guy that you're okay with starting. But with Chigakonkwo, who was probably my favorite pick you guys made, I love how versatile he is as a playmaker. And like, I'm a big fullback guy. If you follow me on Twitter or TikTok or anything like that, you'll know that. And Chigakonkwo to me is like almost Kyle Juszczyk in the sense of what he's capable of. And he'll probably be playing tight end for you guys because I think Torrey Carter's a very solid fullback. But he can do a little bit of everything. There was a lot of plays at Maryland where he was running screens. They were trying to play him out of the backfield. He's a really good blocker for his size because he's not very big. He's extremely quick. Like, he's a very, very good athlete. And if he's going to be like a gadget tight end you guys have, he can make plays. He's explosive. And Kyle Phillips is just like your stereotypical, high motor, gritty, safe white boy in the slot. I'm a big fan of what I saw out of him. He reminds me a lot of
Cole Beasley.
Yeah, Cole Beasley would probably be the perfect comp. I was going to say Edelman, but Beasley's probably better. I would agree with Beasley more. Which is, every team needs a guy like that. You got to have a guy like that that can get easy first downs. He's reliable, and I think Kyle Phillips can be that for you guys. He was somebody that I was like down bad for, wanted the Bears to draft, and unfortunately didn't happen.
I have a reason that I think Tennessee's going to run a lot of 2 tight end, 2 receiver sets because I don't think we have the receiver, like, not depth, but we don't have the receiver power to have more. Like, we can't go 4 receivers on the field at one time because I don't think we have the talent to do that. So we're going to go, what I think we're going to do is 2 tight ends, 2 receivers. And I wouldn't, like, I'm really high on NWI because I think he made such a significant jump from his rookie to second year that I think it's because he was asked to do more, he performed better. Because Julio was hurt a lot last year. We've already, like, done a little bit of that. But AJ was hurt a lot, too. He missed significant time in some of those games. Like, I remember the Houston game, which Ryan, the 4 interception Houston game with Ryan, where NWI went for, I believe, over 100 yards, and that was a big game where I was like, Ryan had nobody else to throw to that game because nobody else was getting separation.
Yeah, I think, and that's something that's being overlooked. I'm not as high on, like I said, about the combo of Woods and Burks. If they're just available more than Brown and Jones were last year, you'll see a difference. There were a lot of times I was looking out on the field, it's like, we've got Dontrell Hilliard with Dez Fitzpatrick and like Chester Rogers. No disrespect to those guys. They're good in their roles, but we can march that out there like a starting lineup. I mean, other DBs are licking their chops. Real quick, I wanted to hit on, okay, if you want to talk draft, before we move on from the draft, there's one particular guy in the 3rd round I want to talk about, not Nicholas Petit-Frere, but I don't want to say he was my favorite pick. I like Okonkwo a lot. I think Okonkwo fits. Last year we missed Jonnu Smith something bad, and I don't think that they realized how bad they would miss Jonnu. So I
wish that we paid Jonnu and not Julio.
Yeah.
That's what I wish.
Well, Chig's going to be Jonnu, but better. I'll tell you that right now. I'm fully confident in that.
We had 3 tight ends last year that saw the field significant amount. That's McCole, Erkser, and Swain. All 3 of them saw significant playing time, and none of them got over 300 yards.
I like Chig to. I think Austin Hooper will do fine this year, and I think they'll move on from him. I don't think they want to see Chig kind of. I think he'll elevate to 1 by year 2. So I like that pick. I really like the Kyle Phillips pick. When they picked Kyle Phillips, his production, everything screams. This is what we wanted in Adam Humphries when we signed him 3 years ago, but never got. So I really like the Kyle Phillips pick. But yeah, to get to Malik, I guess question for y'all: why do you think he fell to 3rd round? And I guess we could talk about when we're going to see him start. I think that will come eventually. I think that's going to be year 3. But what are y'all's thoughts on Malik and just the future of the franchise, I guess we're going to call him?
Year 3?
I don't think that's crazy to say.
I don't either.
I do. I think he starts a game this year. I wouldn't be
Ooh.
surprised.
That's
I
tough.
wouldn't be surprised.
That's
I think
tough.
like week 15 or something.
All right, can
I could
pose
see
a
like the
question?
last week of the season if you guys are kind of out of the playoffs. I could see that happening.
Yeah.
But I don't think he'll be starting a meaningful game. I think it's a little early for that. I didn't even have Malik as my number one quarterback on the board. No, I did.
I
He
didn't
was tied
either.
with somebody.
I had him number 2 on Pickett.
Oh, I had Ritter at number 1, tied with Malik. They were tied. Cass, what were you going to say? Okay, then. He had a question.
Hey, real quick, since you mentioned Ritter, I just need to say Atlanta is building Tennessee South, and I'm here for it.
Yeah.
But them picking Desmond Ritter was like the icing on the cake. I was like, okay, we're just going to rebuild the Titans in Atlanta and just roll with it, I guess, and see how that works.
Yeah. I mean,
Pretty much.
Willis is a good quarterback. I'm not trying to knock him by saying I had Ritter like on his level, but the thing you got to remember with this quarterback class is it was incredibly weak in terms of day one value. Like outside of Pickett, I don't think you're looking at any of these quarterbacks being physically capable of starting day one. God, who was the kid that got hurt? Probably could have. I can't remember. It was either Corral or Strong. I can't remember which one. One of them suffered like a real bad injury.
That was, I believe it was Corral in a bowl game.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, I would have taken Corral as a day one starter had he not gotten hurt. Okay, he's back. But if with Corral being hurt, I think Pickett's probably the only quarterback you can look at reliably as a day one starter. And because of that and how stacked the rest of this draft was at basically every other position, I think that's why you saw a lot of these quarterbacks fall, because they're like, well, you know, you don't want to waste your first round pick on them because they're not going to play day one. You don't want to spend your second round pick on them because you can get a guy that's still going to play day one and this quarterback isn't. And Tennessee just happened to be the team that was finally like, you know what? Tannehill's not getting any younger. He kind of embarrassed us a little bit last year. We'll get his successor and hopefully have him mentor him, which we know isn't going to happen. But I think they made the right pick waiting till the third round to get him, and I think that's going to be a great pick for them. I don't think he'll take till year 3. It wouldn't surprise me if he did, but I would say he's probably playing games in year 2. I think the Titans were a fantastic team for him to go to as well, because a young quarterback is only going to be as good as his situation, and I think Tennessee is a team that's built right now to not only compete currently, but also keep in line long term. I don't want to say they're going to be like contenders long term, but they've got some young pieces you can kind of play around with, and the staff there is nice. Vrabel is establishing a wonderful culture. I love Mike Vrabel, so I think that was a great place for a young quarterback to go. And I think Willis. Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
All right, before I got disconnected, I was going to pose a question.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about how Malik needs to get experience, right? So posing the question, say like nothing's ever guaranteed, and with Ryan's history when he was in Miami, he had some definite like injury issues. Say if we're in a very position where we're competing this year, do you trust Malik to go out and try to win you a game this season, or do you trust a guy that's been there 3 years at this point, who knows the playbook and is an excellent play-action quarterback?
Do not bring in Logan Woodside into this. No, I cannot. No. No.
Yeah, it's tough because you're right. Woodside is a god-awful quarterback. But knowing the playbook is big, and Willis is a guy that I don't think is going to be ready to play year one. So if you're trying to stay competitive, it might just be in your best interest to let Woodside throw like 8 passes in a game and just run Henry 45 times. Like,
or
hold on, we've got an or.
Sign Nathan Peterman.
Actually, he's on a team. He's on my Bears. You can fuck off. He's ours.
We'll take him. We have Logan Woodside.
What pictures or some kind of evidence does Logan Woodside have of like Mike Vrabel's wrongdoing, that like he's still on the roster and we just file it under he knows the playbook?
I didn't even know this until I was actually looking at him for a hype video I made a couple of weeks ago. He threw almost 5,000 yards at Toledo his senior year.
You made a Logan Woodside hype video?
Okay, hold up. I made a Logan Woodside and Malik Willis like, what if Ryan Tannehill got injured video? And I was comparing the two, and he threw almost 5,000 yards his senior year at Toledo.
Listen, I mean no disrespect by that. That's just the funniest thing I've ever heard. The idea of a Logan Woodside hype video is so incredible.
That is.
I understand what you mean. I understand why you did it, but like the way you put it originally was just mind-boggling.
I've done my homework on Logan Woodside for the hype video that I made. It's just a very funny sentence to say.
I don't think anyone's ever said that sentence before. That's got to be a first.
That is a very. Last time somebody said that sentence was the quarterback's coach at Toledo.
I don't know. I don't think he's making hype videos for Logan Woodside.
Do you know what I hate about Logan Woodside the most? That he creeps into every Titans conversation through a back door somehow. And here we are talking about Logan Woodside hype videos. We haven't even talked about Ryan Tannehill, but we're talking about Logan Woodside.
I mean, is there really much to talk about Tannehill?
Logan Woodside is the answer. We all know that. He is the answer.
It's not Tannehill. Maybe it is Woodside. Maybe Logan Woodside beats the Bengals in the playoffs last year. Who knows?
Probably did. Probably would.
Logan Woodside doesn't throw 4 picks.
His motives there, that's the team that drafted him, and they cut him after like...
Yeah, there you go. Logan Woodside revenge game. You guys had a wasted opportunity.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, let's play Christian Hackenberg against the Jets.
That should be your strategy from here on. Just pick up by week. Cut and sign random practice squad quarterbacks and play them against the teams that cut them. Guaranteed win every single week. Yep.
If we play the Chargers, we're playing Easton Stick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I'm dead serious, bro. We need a better backup quarterback. Now we got one in Malik, but Logan's been on the team for consistently. Every time you check the depth chart, he's just right there, and I'm wondering, like, how is this dude not been cut?
How long has he been in Tennessee?
I'm telling you, he has Mike Vrabel's son tied up in a back closet. I don't know. He's my only explanation.
He was backing up Marcus Mariota at one point. That tells you how long.
Oh my lord!
Logan Woodside is. I think that he's married to Mike Vrabel's daughter.
There you go.
He's married to Mike Vrabel.
Yes, that's it. Mike Vrabel and Logan Woodside are a couple. It's an Urban Meyer
Tim Tebow situation. Oh my god!
Situation.
How the
all back?
Listen, why is it the NFC or the AFC South has now given me 2 quarterback coach fan fiction material situations? What is this? What is wrong with your division?
No, genuinely, what it must be is he must be really good at like communicating the playbook, because doesn't the backup quarterback do that?
Yeah.
To the starter?
Yeah, it's got to be that. Or maybe he's a good locker room guy. Maybe everybody in the Tennessee Titans organization just loves Logan Woodside.
Logan Woodside is Clipboard Jesus #2, just bad at football.
Clipboard Jesus, but bad at football. That's
crazy. That's funny.
Put it on a t-shirt.
I am excited to see in the preseason, seriously, though, Woodside versus Willis. I'm pretty sure for the most preseason, I don't think we'll see Tannehill at all, or should we? I'm excited to see how Willis compares to Woodside, drive to drive. Excited to see that play out.
What are you guys going to do if Malik Willis can't outplay Logan Woodside?
You play Logan Woodside.
But, like, is that going to worry you guys at all?
Oh,
yes, it will worry me very much.
Okay.
Absolutely, but we don't have another option.
But seriously, there's got to be some quarterbacks that are like older quarterbacks that are better than Logan Woodside that we could get in the backup.
You could go get Cam Newton.
Oh no!
I've always wanted Jacoby.
Talk about a good locker room guy. Let's get Cam Newton. Yeah.
Brissett would have been nice. Bridgewater. Those are two.
I thought
Who's Bridgewater with?
Bridgewater is in Miami. He's behind Tua.
Oh, you're right.
So if Tua fucks up even once, they have a quarterback that's pretty much just as good sitting behind him.
I think he's better than Tua, but that's not the point.
Either way, they're close. Like there's not a big difference.
That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
No, but it's
Okay.
crazy. Yeah, let's get off this situation. I was going to say something.
No more Logan Woodside.
Well, what I want to bring up is we're talking about our favorite draft picks.
Okay.
And my answer is a different answer than all of you.
Okay.
I think Hassan Haskins has the ability to be Tony Pollard.
I can see that.
Okay,
I can absolutely see that.
I've made this prediction like in my head. I haven't actually like said it in anything or not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's completely impossible that the Titans have 2,000-yard running backs. I think because we're going to want to significantly drop Derek.
Tannehill's got to be throwing the ball like 3 times a game if you're going to have 2,000-yard rushers. Which honestly might be better.
You know how hard it is to get 1,000-yard rusher?
Yeah.
It's not. It's the fact that we've given Derek almost 300, almost 400 carries every year. And if we're going to want to keep him on the team as a healthy prospect, as a healthy player, we can't keep giving him 400 carries.
I get the idea of running multiple running backs like that. That's not a foreign concept, but you don't see them all go for 1,000 yards like that. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but like that's just not something you see. That would be like unprecedented insanity, and I don't think rookie Hassan Haskins is the guy to get that with, personally.
I think you mentioned Henry's workload, and I wanted to touch on that. I don't think the organization is trying to save him any carries, to be honest with you. If he shows that he's slow as we start this next season, we'll see how it goes from there. But I think he's got 2 years left on the deal. This feels like they're just going to run him as much as they can because this is their window. King Henry in his prime is their window. Because you look at it, his 2 years line up with Tannehill's 2 years. We could be sitting here having this conversation 2 years from now about a rebuild centered around Malik Willis that has nothing to do with Derrick Henry. And I think they're just worried about the win now. I would love to see Derrick play till 35 as a Titan. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know. I've heard there's some discussion on an extension, possibly. I don't think that would be wise. We haven't seen him with a full offseason of recovery from the injury. But, I mean, I think Derrick will be back close to his form at least, but I don't think they're worried about saving him carries. And I thought the same thing going into last year. It's like, well, we got to let off him at some point. No, it is pedal to the metal with Derrick Henry. You touch 35 carries a game, and the man's a freak. And until he shows us otherwise, I can't advise, do anything different.
Okay, so
I just want to see him in the playoffs.
Yeah.
As long as he plays in the playoffs, I don't care how much we run that guy. We can run Hassan Haskins as our starter as long as we have Derrick Henry for the playoffs. I'm fine with that.
Bench Henry for the whole season. You heard it here first.
This was my my base off. So the Denver Broncos last year had 2 900-yard rushers. Derrick's better than Melvin, and Hassan performed better at Michigan than Javonte did at North Carolina. That's my understanding.
You cannot compare college careers.
Yeah.
That doesn't equate to NFL success.
Listen, at the end of the day,
a good comparison.
Javonte Williams is like already a fringe top 10 running back after his rookie year. Like that dude is a monster. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Hassan Haskins, but I don't think he's that. I think he can be a good number 2. I think a Tony Pollard comparison is valid. But I can't see him being on Javonte Williams' level. I mean, you're right about King Henry being better than Melvin Gordon. I'll give you that. But I don't think you're going to see 2,000-yard rushers on the same team in today's NFL especially. Like, you got to remember, last year, who were the Broncos quarterbacks? They had Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. And I'm not saying Tannehill's great, but he's better than them, and you're going to trust him to throw the ball more than them. So it's iffy. I don't mean any disrespect by that. I just disagree personally.
I don't think that we'll ever see that. It's same with I don't think that we'll ever see a quarterback hit 60 touchdowns. I just don't think that these are things that are possible. I don't see them happening.
Yeah.
Before we hop off the draft, there's one guy I wanted to briefly mention because I'm excited about him. Tennessee native, cheer on the Vols. Theo Jackson, safety from Tennessee. I'm excited to see him in this system, and I'm excited because Dane Crookshank is gone, and it looks like Theo will be filling that role in. Crookshank really came on strong. I know he's with your Bears now, but he really came on strong for us in the past couple years, and so I really think that Theo will fit that role well. Great special teamer, and some specific packages I think he could really show out for a 6th-round pick's worth anyway.
I do want to bring up, for David's sake, you're welcome for Kari Blasingame.
Yes, sir.
He will be missed. We love him.
I'm
welcome.
I'm already in love with Kari. It did not take long at all. The first thing I thought of, and this is going to sound goofy because I preach how like this messes up people's perspective of players, but the first thing I thought when we got Kari was, ooh, now I'm going to have a fullback with like 87 speed on Madden. That's great. And then I went back and I was looking at Kari in that preseason game against Chicago where he like tore us up on the ground. He had like an 80-yard screen pass or some shit. Like, Kari's good. Kari's a demon. But Torrey Carter played very, very well for you guys last year. And I think with him being younger and cheaper, it was the smart thing for the Titans to let him walk. But I mean, Kari's still like a fringe top 5 fullback, and I'm very happy to have him.
I don't think it's fringe. I think he is top 5.
It's tough. It's tough. I mean, obviously, number 1 is Juszczyk. Number 2, I have Pat Ricard, and then you got like Alec Ingold, C.J. Ham, Keith Smith. Those would be my top 5, and then I think I'd probably have Kari at 6. So it's just tough. There's a lot. Believe it or not, there's a lot of
Janovich.
Janovich is up there. Yep, he's on the Texans now. He's going to play a big role for them. They're going to be running a power running scheme, and he's going to be like their one of their most important blockers. But believe it or not, there's
shaking in my boot.
Listen, Janovich will fuck you up. I don't care what anybody says. Janovich is that dude. But
I'm a very big advocate for fullbacks as well. So I'm from Washington, and so I grew up watching the Seahawks. They aren't my favorite team, but it's the hometown team.
Right.
And so I followed them, and I saw Michael Robinson just beat the shit out of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then Derek Coleman, who was deaf,
also
beat the shit out of everybody. So I grew up watching fullbacks, and I am pro fullback. Don't worry.
When I was watching the Titans, the person that Kyrie really like looked like to me, but it might be like because I didn't really get to catch much of his career because I started watching like the NFL towards the end of his career. But Marcel Reese on the Raiders, that's really what Kyrie really kind of looks like, at least build-wise to me.
Yeah, he's a bit more athletic than Reese, but I can get where you're coming from. Absolutely.
He's not as tough-nosed as Reese was.
Yeah, where he lacks in Reese's toughness, he makes up for in athletic ability. He's one of the more athletic fullbacks in football, if not the most athletic fullback. But he can still lay the boom. Like, he can still pop a guy if he needs to. It's not like he's lacking in physicality or strength or anything. But Kari's good. I love Kari, and I'm so glad he's in Chicago.
This is a question I've been wanting to bring up. How do you think Matt Ryan's going to perform on Indianapolis? I think
he makes him the number one, not the number 1 seed, but the number 1 team in your division.
I think Matt Ryan, and I hate to say it, I think he takes them to a Super Bowl. I see that happening.
I don't think it's crazy to say that.
Because he's been there before. Last year, played great with a horrible team. Still played great. Of course, like Matt Ryan on that team last year, they win the Super Bowl. I think the team is very similar, if not the same, this year. I don't want to see it. But I can see them winning the Super Bowl, or at least making a deep playoff run.
Yeah. My only concern with the Colts is the fact that they lost their defensive coordinator with Matt Eberflus. And Eberflus is a guy that will carry your defense single-handedly with his schematics and his play-calling ability. And I don't know off the top of my head who they promoted, but I would assume it's someone from his staff. So maybe they'll just be able to kind of pick up where Eberflus left off to a slightly lesser extent. But I mean, I think Matt Ryan's by far and away the best quarterback in your division. I think he has a competent offense around him. He has a really good running game, a great offensive line, solid weapons. I'm a big Alec Pierce guy. I think he's going to be a stud with Matt Ryan. I think there's probably a good chance that Julio ends up in Indianapolis just to reunite with Matt Ryan. I think that Colts team could be really, really good if a couple things go their way, mainly defensively, if they can get a couple things to go their way.
I do want to say that being the best quarterback in the AFC South isn't that hard of a challenge.
It's not.
You have with Trevor Lawrence, who I think will be good, but he's not great yet. You have what the hell is Mills' first name?
Davis.
Yeah, there you go. Who I think is great. He's good. He's not top of the division.
Right.
Ryan Tannehill, who's fine. It's not hard to be the top.
No, you're not
quarterback
wrong.
in such a weak quarterback pool.
I did my QB rankings on TikTok a couple months ago, and I think I had Matt Ryan right around like 14 or 15. So I'm not saying he's a superstar right now or anything, but he's an above-average quarterback and a massive upgrade from Carson Wentz. And like you said, that team outside of Wentz looked pretty damn competent last year. And if they have Matt Ryan, they're not losing to the Jaguars in the last week of the season to get knocked out of the playoffs. They're going into the playoffs and probably making a little bit of noise.
And also, weren't we down like 14, 21 points to Indianapolis and they threw like 2 picks?
Yeah, Wentz just isn't good. Wentz is just awful.
Anymore. He's not good anymore, no.
Yeah. It's only fitting that Wentz went to the Commanders because that's the face of the franchise. He deserves to be the face of that franchise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The only team that he would be a better face of the franchise for is the Vikings, who are just constantly hyped and then mediocre at the end.
Which is, I mean, if you want to go that route, I think Kirk Cousins is the perfect quarterback for them. I mean, he is the face of mediocrity, but the media and Vikings fans will tell you that he's borderline top 10 because his numbers are always out of this world. I'm not a big Kirk guy either. I don't think Kirk is very good. I think Tannehill's better than Kirk. That's a take I've gotten flamed for.
I don't agree with that.
I'm not saying it's a big difference. I have them ranked like right around each other, but I think Tannehill is slightly better than Kirk because Tannehill will at least take a risk here and there.
Personally, as far as on the run wise, and I don't know if this is more of a good thing or a bad thing, but Ryan's one of the only quarterbacks I'll see that'll go like he would really put himself in danger's way to get like a first down if he needed it. Yeah. Like I don't know if y'all have like seen highlights and stuff, but the dude will run straight into a linebacker to get a first down.
Yeah, but that's, like you said, it's kind of a good and bad thing. Like, you respect it that he wants to put himself in the line, but at the end of the day, you're the quarterback. You got to play smarter than that. You can't be doing that. Because if you go down, your team's fucked.
Don't get hurt.
Yeah. Right.
Tannehill.
Don't get yourself hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the love for Tannehill blossomed out of like this. We thought he was going to be the backup because in our minds we thought Marcus was better. I don't know how many of us actually thought that offseason. But there were plenty of talking heads around the Titans organization that said, hey, Tannehill was always turning heads over Marcus. They were just going to start Marcus to give him his last opportunity. I think the Titans fans developed this. I think they loved him a little too much in his first year just because, and I'm guilty, he was cheap. He was unexpectedly good. And that's just where it all blossomed from. And he was really, really good under Arthur Smith. I think last year we saw everything I think Titans make the Super Bowl. I think they win the AFC Championship last year if Arthur Smith had stayed. You keep Jonnu. If you had kept the core intact, I think that team would have beat the Chiefs in a rematch. I really do. It's too bad that Arthur had to bolt because I don't think it worked out for anybody last year like we thought it would. Wish him the best in Atlanta. But I think the situation with Ryan now is, and I thought it was stupid at the time, he didn't deserve that massive deal. He doesn't deserve to be the biggest cap hit in the NFL. And I think that's where a lot of the hate comes, maybe deservedly so, that he's $38 million against the cap and he's mid.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it was worth re-signing Ryan. I think we gave him way too much money.
Yeah.
Way too much money.
Yeah, I got a funny Ryan Tannehill story for you guys real quick, just while we're on the topic. I'm from Maryland. I live in Maryland. I've always lived in Maryland. So a lot of the people around me are like Pittsburgh fans and Baltimore fans. And the year Lamar Jackson was a unanimous MVP, I had a buddy who was just really, really fucking annoying about it. So I would swear up and down every day that Ryan Tannehill was a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson. And I stood on that, and I died on that hill. And my only argument was that Tannehill had a higher QBR that season than Lamar Jackson. That was my argument. That was my basis. And it's one of the biggest mistakes and embarrassing takes I think I have ever had.
You want to know another interesting Ryan Tannehill statistic for you? There's only
Lord.
2 QBs with a 66% winning percentage and like 67% completion percentage, and that's Aaron Rodgers and Ryan Tannehill.
Oh my god! See, this is why you can't just look at stats. This is why I hate people that just sit and look at stats all day, because they do not tell you everything you need to know.
Ryan Tannehill is better than Aaron Rodgers. That's what you just told me.
Wow.
I'm here for it.
Oh my lord! I mean, they both choke in the playoffs the same. I'll give them that.
No, the Titans don't make it that far.
Well, they made it last year, and I'm just saying, I was more or less referring to Tannehill kind of shit in the bed last year against the Bengals. But yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, that.
See, I don't know. I don't know.
Bengals, real quick, before we get off that, do you think it was the right decision to start Henry in that game? Because who was the backup? Was playing much better than
Devontae Foreman went for 6 rushes, 60 yards.
Yes.
I think I think it was crazy because you saw Foreman the week before. No, it wasn't the week before. Whenever we played Miami, he did really well in that game. Like the last games of the season, he did really well against Miami, who was on like a 7-8 game winning streak, and they were saying we were going to lose to them. I remember seeing that everywhere, that we were going to lose to Miami, and Miami was going to make the playoffs, and we beat them. And then we beat, I think, Houston or Jacksonville to close out the season, with Foreman having a big game in that game, too. I don't see why we didn't give him more carries in the Bengals game. Because he was
Foreman deserves to be a starter somewhere.
Yes.
I really do think so.
Do you think with him being in Carolina, do you think you'll get, more of a chance to do that with McCaffrey's injuries issues?
I don't know, because they've got what's his name? They've got another running back there too. Yeah, Chuba. I don't know how many opportunities he's going to get over Chuba.
They played very different football, though.
Yeah, true. I don't know.
Think
it's a weird situation.
That Hubbard is more similar to Christian McCaffrey than he is to Foreman.
Fair. Yeah,
which is why I think if McCaffrey goes down, if they at some point they've got to decide what kind of offense they want to be because they've tried to build a complete offense around Christian McCaffrey, and consistently he's had problems with staying on the field to play in that offense. I think a style more like Tennessee runs would be perfect for Carolina. You got a speed receiver in Robbie Anderson. You got a guy that can go up and make catches in T.J. Moore. I think that'd be a perfect offense for them to run.
Yeah, but they're not going to do it until McCaffrey's out of the building. They're going to hold on to the idea that he's going to be healthy until he's not there.
Yep.
It's just because he's so good.
Mm.
He's so good, and it's also, as somebody that's had him the last two years in fantasy, unfortunately, he's so good, and you get that. And you're so excited for him at first, and then it's just he's not worth the risk of going all in on him because he doesn't stay healthy. Because of the way that he plays, he just can't.
Right.
I got a funny Christian McCaffrey story. I remember watching people talk about the draft leading up to when he got drafted, and people were talking about whether he was going to play receiver or running back in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember people specifically saying if he played running back, he'd have injury issues because he would be taking so many hits.
Yeah.
I think that he could have played, as short as he is, he could have played like a tight end wing sort of spot, he would have done great there. I think that they could have used him the way that the Niners used Debo.
I could see that as like the wide back type of thing. I could see that.
Okay, I got another question. With Tennessee signing Tim Kelly, how much do y'all think that's going to help the offense? He was the coach that helped out Deshaun Watson when D-Watt was in Houston.
Well, if he was somebody that helped Watson in Houston, I was going to say, if it's somebody that helped Watson in Houston, I hope his hands are clean.
Oh.
That should be the first thing you should worry about.
He was signed on, and his official title is offensive coordinator assistant. So,
what does that mean?
He's the he's on his Dwight Schrute arc right now. He's
the Dwight Schrute to Mike Vrabel. Someone get me that
to the offensive coordinator.
I need the Titans, and I know there's a curse, but I need the Titans on Hard Knocks so bad. I need to see Vrabel on Hard Knocks.
Vrabel's awesome.
He's very fun on Hard Knocks.
Vrabel was so good on Houston's Hard Knocks in like 2016. Oh my God, I went back and watched that recently, and he was so good in that.
Yeah, Vrabel
and LeBron on Hard Knocks. So busting with the boys on Hard Knocks. You kidding me?
So fun. So, dude, way that Luwan just interacts with other football players on the field, he'd be so fun on Hard Knocks. He's so fun. And like just his way of trash talking works so well. As somebody that has used his version of it, it fucking works. That it works. It's just like act gay and they don't know what to do. It's so fun. So fun.
What do you mean by that? I need a rundown. I'm not too familiar with his trash talking.
Okay.
So he's talked about talking about sucking guys' dicks and stuff, and I did that in the game. I hit their linebacker. I go, if you touch 7 over there, I'm gonna suck your dick. He didn't touch 7 the whole game. I did my job because he was afraid. He's like, Coach, we're not getting any sacks. I don't want 75. I don't want to put my sack in 75's mouth. It was
fair enough.
It works. It works. He's so just not afraid to be ostracized as the weird guy.
I mean, if it works, it works.
And I love it. I love it, and it works.
That was another thing. He also said he did this other or either he went to school with somebody at Michigan that did this strategy where they wouldn't shower like 2-3 days before a game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I would never do that. It's that I respect the hell out of it.
That's why I think the podcast with Luwan and Comp have done so well is because he's so hilarious just as a person.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a guy like that in Chicago. I don't know if you guys remember Kyle Long, but he was that type of guy. He wasn't quite the trash talker that Luwan was, but he's a goofball. He's a character off the field.
Kyle Long was one of the reasons that I wore 75.
Hell yeah, I love that. I tried to wear 75 because of Kyle Long. The one year I played football, and it was already taken, so I got stuck with 77.
Hey, that's the number I wore when I played.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, I played 1 year of middle school football. It's nothing to brag about, but I tried to have my number inspired by Kyle Long.
Yeah. Ty Miller over here.
Yeah, I recorded my season stats were 1 forced fumble and 1 fumble recovery. That was it. I did one thing.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah. And it was the goofiest. Was it your
only tackle this season?
Wasn't even a tackle. I just hit the ball. They tried to convince me that I was like the first guy in, sort of like the 6th man of the D line. And it wasn't true, but that's what my coaches tried to tell me, I guess, to like hype me up. And my 1D line coach, I'm about to go in, he grabs me by the face mask and he goes, "Hey, get that fucking football when you get in there." And I was like, okay. So I run out there and I line up. I was I wasn't quite the nose tackle, but like I was kind of cockeyed, not quite a 3-tech, and I literally fire off the ball quicker than I ever have, and the guard in front of me pulled, so I had an open lane. And I'm not, I'll tell you right now, I'm a big dude. I'm not very fast. I'm very, very slow and very, very not athletic. This is the most athletic fucking thing I've ever done in my life. I ran as fast as I could, and they ran a double handoff reverse. And during the second handoff, I just went like that and smacked the ball down and fell on top of it. That was the one thing I did playing football in 8th grade. And then after that, I mean, yeah, basically, I dove on top of it and laid there, and one of my coaches came over and got me, and I had the ball in my hand still, and I ran over to the sideline and was celebrating, and one of the coaches had to come up and pop the ball out of my hand to give it back to the ref, because I forgot I had it. But I have never seen a group
cradling it like it's a baby.
Yeah, pretty much. I had no idea what was going on, and it was so cool, too, because we were playing like a night game, which we never did. We were in a high school stadium, so the lights were on, so I felt like a fucking badass. And it was the goofiest thing in the world. And then I ended up quitting football and doing theater because I hated the high school coach. That was my trajectory.
That's a very Glee transition there. It's like High School Musical who?
Troy Bolton.
David Miller is Troy Bolton.
Yeah.
Get your head in the game.
And the only difference is I'm not going to school for football or singing. I'm terrible at both.
He actually took his head out of the game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Listen, in my defense,
Not
though,
like
I had there was a douchebag head coach at my high school, so I didn't want anything to do with him. That's why I quit. I would have kept playing if it wasn't for him.
Can I, speaking of that, at my high school, we had a coach that was like really decorated, like was a really good head coach. He retired like my senior year, but we could barely field teams my sophomore and junior year because he was known for being such a dick.
Our coach wasn't even decorated. He was just a dick. I had him as my teacher my freshman year of high school for math, and me and him used to get into it all the time. Me and him at one point were like right in the face yelling at each other over a Jordan and LeBron debate. And then another time, he basically called me a dumbass because I said Roquan Smith was going to be a better linebacker than Tremaine Edmonds. And not to toot my own horn or anything, but I was very much right about that. Dude was just an asshole. I hated him. But anyways, back to the Titans.
Hey, speaking of head coaches, how do we think, just posing a question to y'all, where do you have Vrabel ranked in your head coach power rankings? I'd go somewhere between 5 and 8.
Yeah.
I know that may be a little high, but
I think that's valid. 3. So who do you have ahead of him?
It's McVay, LaFleur. Do I have
the disrespect to Kyle Shanahan is unbelievable.
No, I do love Kyle Shanahan. I think he's top 5.
I got Shanahan at number 1. I don't care what anybody says.
No, I don't agree with that.
I don't care what anybody says. Shanahan's the best coach in football.
Question. Do y'all still have Bill Belichick as a top 8 coach?
I got him at 3. No, 2. I got Belichick at 2.
Top 8? That's wrong, and you know it. That's just...
I don't think it's...
That's the opposite of recency bias. That's past bias.
I wouldn't say it's past bias. Belichick's still a good coach. He just can't build a team.
And that's part of being a bad coach.
No, it's not. That's part of being a bad GM.
He can't work with what he has.
Is he still the GM in New England?
Yeah.
Yeah, for some fucking reason.
You guys,
knows
that's
why.
the problem. Nobody can separate the GM side of Belichick and the coach side of Belichick. Belichick's a good coach. He's just an awful GM.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that he's such a good coach that they let him be the GM for some reason.
Listen,
and now he's messing up the team.
Yeah,
which makes him a bad coach. I stand by that.
I don't think that takes him out of being a coach. I think that's 2 separate positions. You got to be able to separate it.
I'll put him top 8, but I don't think
as a coach you should be able to draft.
I disagree. This isn't college. It's not like we got Bill Belichick going to your house and recruiting you. You don't have coaches doing that in the NFL.
I see a team of Mike Vrabel drafted players. Like, I think they just go kill every other NFL team. I don't even know. They'd just be all like monsters.
Right. You can't let coach.
Everybody's George Kittle if Mike Carter. If Mike Vrabel was allowed to be the only person drafting, everybody the Titans had would be George Kittle.
Yeah, like I understand letting your coach have input, but your coach can't be your GM. It just doesn't work. Belichick was a rare example, and it worked for a long time, and it's crashed and burned and blew up in their faces now, so it just doesn't work.
We figured out that Brady is absolutely the GOAT because he can win without Belichick. Belichick can't win without him.
Well, it's a harder transition, and Brady is the GOAT. I'm not trying to disagree with that, but it's a harder transition because Belichick has to find a whole new quarterback. Brady was just like, oh hey, look, now I've got the best offense in football and the best defense in football and a great head coach, and I can just kind of do my thing, you know. I'm not trying to take away from Brady.
It's that if your team was only good because of your quarterback, it's because your quarterback was stellar.
I wouldn't say they were only good because
you
of
were
Brady.
relying on him too much. I think that he proved that when the Bucks win the Super Bowl and didn't the Patriots miss the playoffs.
Their quarterback was also Cam Newton, and half of their defense was either gone or like on the fringe of retirement.
Cam Newton was supposed to be good that year too. This wasn't.
He's Cam Newton. Cut Belichick some slack. You can't blame him for Cam Newton sucking. Cam Newton's just not a good quarterback anymore.
I was just thinking about something talking about Cam, and I had recently seen a Carolina Panthers all-time team thing, and he's the quarterback. So it brought up a thing in my head. Low-key, Tennessee has one of the best all-time rosters I've ever seen, especially offensively. Because you got to think, they have Randy Moss, Julio Jones, and Andre Johnson.
Oh, you're cheating with that. That's cheating.
That's cheating.
You can't do that. You got to go with guys who were Titans. You can't just pick a guy that played there for a year.
It's like adding Jerry Rice to a Seahawks all-time team.
You just can't do it. That's sacrilegious. It's sacrilegious.
Hey, someone mentioned Brady, and I wanted to go back. I think we'll look back 10 years from now and look at the end of the 2019 season after the Miracle Run. Of course, whenever Mahomes broke off that impromptu run right before the halftime that kind of sank the Titans, I think nothing's been the same since in one way or another. Y'all talked about Brady for a second, and I wanted to bring up one of the greatest what-ifs I think in Titans franchise history will be in that offseason where we had to decide between extending Tannehill or going and making a push for Tom Brady. I'm asking, if Tom Brady comes to Tennessee, does he experience the same success he has in Tampa?
I don't see why not.
I don't
know.
To
the extent, but I think that he plays as well.
Yeah.
I don't think the rest of the team plays as well.
Yeah. Because no disrespect to Tennessee, but that Tampa defense is something different. I mean, it's a different animal.
It is absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It was especially that season. That defense played so well, and that offensive line played so well. Brady, he just had to flick it. That's all he had to do. The whole game. He's just like, okay.
Yeah,
Evans I would say over there somewhere.
I would say the Titans are still contenders if Brady comes to them, but I don't think it's going to be the dominance that he had in Tampa. Yeah,
I understand now. Oh, go ahead.
Again, I think that Brady plays as well. It's just that I don't think that our team was that Bucks team. I don't think that at all.
See, I'm having to look at it because when I first answered. When I said I don't see why not, I'm putting the idea of Brady in now Tennessee. I have to go back and think of it as like the 2020 team when we had a very bad defense.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to think of it like that. Now, if we re-answer the question, if Tom Brady's in this Tennessee Titans team, I think debatably this Tennessee Titans team's top 3.
Yes,
defensively.
Certainly.
Defensively, I think our defense is, especially if our secondary ends up being as good as people project it to be. With Caleb Farley, you got Christian Fulton, who I think performed really well last year and is very much underlooked. And then you got guys like Elijah Molden, and then you got Roger McCurry coming in the 2 back safeties. I think our defensive, especially, is really good. I think our biggest hole is at inside linebacker because we have guys that haven't been full season starters before.
You got Zach Cunningham. He's been a full season starter, but outside of that, you're absolutely right.
When I was meaning full season starter, I was talking more on the form of like David Long hasn't played
Right.
like all.
I got you. Yeah, that linebacker.
I'm a David Long fan.
Me too, very much.
I like what I've seen out of Long, but I mean, I don't know, the linebacker core is weird, and that's actually a good transition because I kind of wanted to talk about the defense now because we've talked a lot about the offense. We've pretty much covered all of it, unless the only thing we didn't really talk about was like Derrick Henry's great, but I mean that kind of goes without saying. So
Henry's awesome. That's all we need to say.
Yeah.
What about Robert Woods? I just want to touch on that. That was a big time trade at the time. What do we think about that?
I think that was a great trade for you guys.
He's the best blocking receiver in the NFL.
I wouldn't say he's the best, but he's one of the best. Cooper Kupp is the best.
Oh yeah, no. I would agree with that.
But Woods is top 5. Absolutely. He's one of the best. And
Bobby Trees, first of all, Bobby Trees is the greatest nickname in NFL right now. I think that Bobby Trees is the best nickname right now, and I think that means that he's going to be all-pro just because of his nickname.
I didn't know people were calling him Bobby Trees. That is incredible. I've never heard that before.
You didn't know that?
No.
That's what they call him, yeah.
That's great. I love that.
And I'm going to name a hot take, and I want to see what y'all think.
Okay.
Sorry if my voice is a little weird.
You're good.
I think the biggest, like the highest potential for NWI is to be what Bobby Trees has ended up being.
I can see that.
That's his ceiling.
I can see that.
That's his ceiling. That's ceiling. That's as high as you could get would be what Bobby is.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll hit it, but I can see that being a ceiling.
I think floor is what he's at now, like 400 yards.
Yeah, I don't know. He doesn't do a whole lot that like stands out to me that makes me think he's going to be anything special. But I mean, if he's like your wide receiver 4, I think you're in a good situation. But I could see him as like a good run blocking guy that has like sure hands, I suppose is how you want to put it.
One thing about Bobby Trees that I really, in the aftermath of that trade, that really impressed me was all of the just great things the Rams organization, Rams players, Rams fans had to say about what Robert Woods' impact was on that championship Rams team. And I think when you're looking at an offense that outside of Derrick Henry, I guess the quarterback's always going to be a leader or whatever. I don't think Tannehill's the greatest leader ever, but Henry's pretty vocal. You have a basically brand spanking new receiver room. It's great that Robert Woods is going to be the leader of the pack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need a guy like that in there.
I think we could give Woods a captain's badge. And I wouldn't be mad about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is something I've always been curious about. You get 3 for offense, 3 for defense, right?
I believe. I think there's a special teams in there as well.
Teams.
Yeah. 1
for special teams.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if Brett's still on the team, you've got to give that to Brett. Brett's been here like 20 years. It's crazy. He's been like one constant for the Titans.
Oh my God, I read that horribly wrong. I'm looking at the depth chart real quick, and I scrolled down to the special teams, and they've got punter and holder listed right next to each other, and Brett Kern is for both. And I looked at the second name under holder and saw Logan Woodside, and I thought for a second he was your backup punter. I was about to lose my fucking mind. I was like,
rugby punts, let's go. Rugby punts all day from Logan Woodside. Logan rugby punt Woodside.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring Logan Woodside back up.
But the reason
I'm glad you did.
The reason I said if he's on the team, because a lot of people have been hyping up this undrafted free agent we got. I think it's Ryan Stonehouse or something. People are saying we might end up cutting Brett because Brett's getting like a significant salary cap.
I don't know, man. You got to have a short punter in today's NFL, especially if your quarterback's Ryan Tannehill. So I don't know. It's the truth. So I don't know. Maybe if the kid's good, who knows? But back to the defense. I think the best place to start is with those linebackers because I'm not sold. Like David Long Jr., I've liked what I've seen out of him. And Zach Cunningham's good as like a leader for your defense, but athletically he's kind of lost a step. I don't want to say a husk of himself, but he's kind of approaching that. And then unless I'm missing somebody, which please correct me if I am, there's no one else, at least in terms of your off-ball linebackers, that really stands out that I think can be anything.
We have a second-year player that's really athletic, Monty Rice out of Georgia.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And then I've seen this guy. I'm not saying that he's going to be any good or not, but I've seen this guy that apparently was really tackling in college that we drafted this year named Chase Campbell.
Yeah.
Apparently he was really good for Ole Miss.
Okay, yeah, he was somebody that I didn't get a chance to watch film on, so I'm not very familiar with what he's able to do. And Monty Rice was someone I did see a little bit when I was going back and watching stuff for the Titans, but other than being athletic, there was nothing really that stood out to me with him. But I guess he's a piece that you could develop potentially long term. But you guys lost 2 linebackers this offseason, right? With Evans and Brown?
Yes.
That
My problem with Rashawn is besides, and y'all can key in if y'all want to, but besides Rashawn's rookie year, every year was a down step for Rashawn. Would that be something that y'all would agree with?
I had high hopes for Rashawn Evans. At one point, I think it was in that 19 run, I was like, is Evans and Brown the tandem that's going to be like in Titans Ring of Honor someday for, this great linebacker tandem? And look, they're both gone in the same offseason. Rashawn Evans, it just kind of halfway through his rookie deal, you're kind of like, he won't be sticking around. Jayon was a guy that, because he was such a low round pick, you always cheer for those guys.
Jayon had a lot of injury issues.
Yeah,
he did, and that was a thing where I was glad they gave him the opportunity to come back and prove himself on that 1-year deal. I think that was a great deal for all involved. I think it's good that he's moving on. I think everything had kind of been played out with those 2 guys, and I wished him the best. But I don't think they're worse off because those 2 left. Especially just based on last year's production, they're not any worse off that those 2 are gone.
And
Harold
towards the end
Landry
of the
is Harold Landry? Go, you're good.
Towards the end of the season, David and Zach Cunningham were our starters inside anyway.
right.
Towards the last 8 weeks of the season, we played with them for the final stretch because Jayon was hurt, and I believe Rashawn got hurt too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Healthy scratch, I mind you. There were a couple games, I think Rashawn wasn't. One of them, Rashawn or Jayon, was not in uniform, and he was a healthy scratch. It was really sad to see.
Yeah.
So is Harold Landry playing strictly defensive end now?
That's how he's listed on the depth chart.
I don't think that's how he plays.
No.
Landry is he plays like a Julius Peppers type role.
Well,
where he's more of a, or would Bruce Irvin be a better
what, like a defensive end that
he's-
kind of drops back into coverage and is able to play off ball here and there?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, most edge rushers do that, if we're being totally honest. Dependent on the scheme and like when you're running a 3-4 especially, most edge rushers are going to have plays where they're dropping back into coverage. Like Chicago did that a lot with Khalil Mack. And Lawrence Taylor used to do that back in the day. Like you said, Julius Peppers, when he was with Green Bay, used to do a lot of that. TJ Watt does it from time to time. Some guys just do it a bit more frequently than others, but if you're listed as an outside linebacker in a 3-4, you're primarily getting at the quarterback. And maybe I'm wrong with Landry. Maybe I'm off base, because like I said beforehand, the Titans were a team that I didn't necessarily get to do as much research as I wanted to do on, so maybe I am missing something there, but that's just how it looks to me.
Do you think when it's looked back on that last year is going to be a really high point for Landry, or is last year going to be a point where he puts up consistently those years consistently? Or is that going to be like his high point year?
What did he have last year?
I think hopefully last year is the status quo. Hopefully last year is the status quo. Do I think it will be? I don't know. I'm not paid to tell you that. But I don't know, but I hope so. I hope that becomes the floor for him is 12 sacks. I would love that.
I think this year, and we'll look back, okay, my favorite signing, I would say, that was under the radar at the time, but we talked about it more up into training camp when he started showing flashes. Denico Autry worked wonders for that front, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And Denico Autry helped Jeffrey Simmons, who helped Harold Landry, who helped Bud Dupree. I expect more from Bud this year. I think he will deliver. I think it's about time. We're paying him so freaking much. He's got to do something, right? But I think all 4 of those guys benefited each other in ways that I see when the first one goes, because it won't be the same.
Vic Beasley and Jadeveon Clowney say a lot. They took off years in Tennessee.
Damn.
They got paid a bunch of money and just said,
You don't know how badly I wanted Jadeveon Clowney to work out in Tennessee, and it broke my heart. But you know what? Best wishes to him in Cleveland, just riding coattails over there. Maybe he had a productive season. I don't know. Jadeveon Clowney was dead to me whenever he gets to his Browns press conference. Is like, I think they won more games than my team did last year. I was like, Jadeveon, you were on IR for half the year. Like, chill out, bro. But anyway,
at least this is my problem with that season. At least Jadeveon, at least got on the field. Victor wouldn't even call the Titans back.
he didn't. He said, "Screw y'all. Thanks for the money.
I think that my dad was super excited when Jadeveon Clowney got traded to the Seahawks. I was at football practice that morning. When that news broke, everybody around me is Seahawks fans, and they're like, "Oh my God, we got Clowney. He's going to kill it." And then he killed it for like 2 games. And then when we signed him, I was like, "Okay, let's do it. Let's see the 2 games again. That's all I want." And then that's what we got was 2 pretty solid games, and the rest were like, he's fine.
Yes.
He's a football player. He's not extraordinary.
Clowney's a weird case.
Yeah, getting back to the guys on the roster, I didn't mean to take a rabbit hole like that. But again, I think when we talked about the emergence of Jeffrey Simmons, what an awesome pick that was and what a value he was in the 19 draft.
Yes.
And let me say this too, this 2019 class, when we drafted them in Nashville, they are the cornerstone outside of Derrick Henry for this team. And it's incredible to see how almost every single pick from round to round has a role and plays well. We're talking about Amani Hooker, who's going to get an extension. We're talking about David Long, who was a freaking 6th-round pick for Pete's sake. Like, this team from top to bottom just got excellent value. Even AJ in the 2nd round. You know, AJ was a first-rounder through and through. Got him in the 2nd round. So Jeffrey Simmons has emerged, but I think a lot of that Danico Autry was just such and he had his sacks. I think he had 8 or 9. So that, I mean, it shows up in the stat book too, but just there were so many plays where like that X factor of what Danico was going to bring just opened it up for everybody. And there's nothing more terrifying than seeing Jeffrey Simmons, who I really only have, I think he's my 3rd or 4th best interior defensive lineman. I mean, I think he can be not quite Aaron Donald, but I think he has that one season of that in him. He's a beast. That Rams game, man, he was ripping up that offensive line.
Yeah, Simmons looked like a absolute monster last year. He really
isn't it if I'm not wrong, isn't it the Rams game? Not to go off topic of the defense, but isn't it the Rams game where Aaron Brewer and Dylan Reduns played on the offensive line because Lawan and Saffold were out, and they I want to say that's right.
Yeah.
But,
no clue.
But anyway, back to the defense. We're talking about the defensive line. There's a guy that we drafted last year but didn't get able to play because he got hurt in training camp that I'm really excited for, and that's Rashad Weaver, who had some off the field stuff, which is why he fell to us in the 4th round, I believe, in 2020. But he had some off the field stuff before the draft, so we got him as a late round pick, and I'm really excited to see Rashad Weaver because I think as a rotational guy for the defensive line, he could be really good for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he'll be someone that I like to see Bud Dupree kind of pour into and be a good veteran. And then when Bud's gone, I see Weaver kind of filling that role. I don't think he'll be like some big superstar or anything. He's a 4th-round pick that I think they have slotted as a rotational guy who's just there to give Bud a breather when he needs it. But he showed some really good flashes before his injury last year.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you see a lot of teams now really prioritizing the idea of having rotational linemen. So if you can get a guy late in the draft that can sub in from time to time and at least give your guys a breather and not have to worry about him being on the field, that's huge. That's just kind of the way defenses are trending nowadays, where you got to have 3 or 4 good edge rushers. So if he can at least be solid as a late round pick, that's a fantastic pickup for them. Like I said, I'm just kind of talking out of my ass at this point. That's a very basic observation, but I got to add something because I have no idea what's going on. I really did not get a chance to look at this defensive line for Tennessee other than Simmons, obviously, who is a monster. And I did see what you're talking about with Autry being a guy who not only can fill up the stat sheet for himself, but also set up other people very well.
Free Simmons is astronomically good. I'm so glad that he has come into his own because I was worried that he wouldn't. I was like, dude, you were so good. But we drafted him. Now he was hurt. Then he got not hurt, and he murdered guys. It was so fun to watch, and I'm so glad that he's a Titan.
I remember that game that he had the ACL he was coming off of, and I think we had kind of all assumed. I know a lot of people were disappointed in that pick because it's like, great, we drafted a first rounder nationally and won't even play his first season, but he ends up like this speedy recovery from the ACL. I think his first game was against the Chargers in Week 7, and that was that game we had like the goal line stand on 4th and goal that like Melvin Gordon fumbled the ball and we won by mere inches. But this dude, like, first time we ever see him in a Titans uniform in like real live action game here, blowing up guys, just a monster.
I swear, that's been like Jeffrey's go-to like big play scenario is goal line stands.
Mm-hmm.
He did it against Buffalo last season, which is the reason we won that game on the Josh Allen, where they said the offensive line. They said Josh Allen slipped. That was their way to cover it up in the media. Not Jeffrey Simmons made a big play. Josh Allen slipped and fell down.
I think it was a combination of both, but yeah. Jeffrey Simmons played a factor.
I just want to say this isn't really a football take, but I think the idea of this dude being named Jeffrey and being this incredible of a defensive lineman is hysterical. Like, just imagine you're getting sacked by Jeffrey. How do you come back from that? How do you recover from that?
That's why we had to rebrand a new Big Jeff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Big Jeff is a lot more menacing than Jeffrey. Jeffrey's the...
What about Harold?
Yeah, Harold and Jeffrey coming at you.
Yeah.
Harold is pretty bad. Harold is pretty bad.
And Bud.
The third.
Harold Landry the third.
Yeah. Harold, Jeffrey,
right.
and Bud.
Bud. No, Bud's a little bit scary.
Is it, though?
Bud,
Bud?
No, it's just like...
Bud sounds condescending.
It's just like in high school baseball, if somebody's being called Big Country, like, ah, shit. Dingers are coming from Big Country.
You're just going to hit a bomb. Big Country's coming. You're not ready for Big Country.
Big Country doesn't even have to run the bases. He's so big. He can just hit it and he's gone.
Oh,
it's like somebody else runs the bases for him and he's good.
Big Country has a mullet.
Damn straight.
Mullet or a buzz cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Talking about the defense on the back end. So I said I'm a Tennessee native. I'm a resident of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I'm a student at MTSU, and there's this guy named Kevin Byard who is the talk of the town. He's the mayor of Murfreesboro. And I feel like when you miss
football.
He's pretty all right.
Kevin Byard's my guy, and I think his leadership role in that defense shouldn't be undermined. I mean, I guess Jeffrey Simmons is coming to his own as a leader, but I really like what Kevin Byard does, and I really thought I like the Kenny Vaccaro tandem with Byard, and so when that kind of aged out, we have Amani Hooker come in here, and I'm like, dang, I thought Amani Hooker would be a good player, but to be the level that Amani's played at, it's just this tandem is great, and I think they're just kind of the cherry on top in this secondary that I think is top 5 in the league. How the rest of that defense plays, the linebackers, I mean, that affects them, but I think I can't say enough good things about KB.
I think that Kevin Byard just lifts up whoever's opposite of him.
Yeah.
I think he just does that.
I've also heard that he's been like really helpful with Theo. We were talking about Theo earlier, that he's been really helpful with Theo. During minicamp was what was happening a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
He was really helpful with Theo.
Kevin's one of those few players that you will never see probably less than 5% of all NFL players will finish their career on the same team that drafted them. I would love to see Kevin retire a Titan, and I think he goes as one of like the 5 or 6 all-time greats in the franchise.
God, absolutely.
He can finish out. I think this year
he is 2 interceptions away from leading.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah,
he gets more than this season. I think he gets more than that this season.
Yeah. Byard's a stud. I've got him as the second best safety in football. I think he's absolutely incredible.
Who do you have at 1?
Derwin. Easily. Derwin James. What are you talking about who?
Derwin James. Okay.
Don't disrespect Derwin James like that.
I disagree, but that's fair.
Derwin, the only thing with him is his health, but the dude can do literally everything on defense. I mean, say what you want about Micah Parsons. I don't think there's a more versatile ball player than Derwin James on the defensive side of the ball. But I guess if you want to make his health a big deal, Byard would be number 1, but it's not for me personally.
With talking about the extension of Amani Hooker, I've seen some people talk about how Elijah could, if they wanted to, play that safety role. Do you think that plays any of a factor to whether we resign Amani or not?
I doubt it. You want to have as many good corners as possible. In this league,
Yeah.
you got to have 4 or 5. You got to be 4 or 5 deep. And you're not going to take Elijah Mold out of that position when you have a hell of a safety opposite Byard already.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this in another one of these previews. I can't remember who said it. It was a former defensive back, former NFL defensive back, but he's the one who said you got to have like 5 deep or else your defense isn't going to thrive. And I mean, I would say I can confidently say the Titans are 4 deep right now. Once you hit 5, it's a little bit iffy because I mean I'm a Bears fan. I've seen what Buster Screen is capable of, but
personally, talking more about like living up to draft picks and stuff. I think for where we was drafted, Chris Jackson has played a lot of football for where he was drafted.
True.
He has played a lot of football to be a 6th or 7th round pick. He is a guy that I think has the experience to be that 5th guy. Because
wasn't Kalen Reed, Kalen, something like that. There was another guy who was drafted in like the 6th or 7th round before him. No, it was LaShawn Sims. I'm sorry, another one of those late round picks that they like to use in the bottom of that rotation, who gets a ton of playing time. And for the 6th or 7th round pick, yeah, they're not going to re-sign him past their 4-year deal, but they're incredible value for the position they play.
I think Tennessee's entire secondary is like good for like a player that needs somewhere to like play. Like Breon Borders, I was so high on Breon Borders when he played for Tennessee. I don't know where he plays now, but I actually thought he was a really good corner just because of like that scheme that we play. It makes players look better than what they are.
Yeah.
Excited for Christian Fulton this year. I'm really hoping Caleb Farley steps in and is what we think Caleb Farley can be. I know a lot of people had him as that top ranked corner in last year's class. We'll see how that pans out because, again, it's just kind of like the jury's still out after that whole injury. But just a dude, big, physical, Mike Vrabel kind of corner who's just he'll punch you in the mouth at the cornerback position, So I think depending on how if Christian Fulton continues to impress and get better, he doesn't have any regression, and then you have Caleb Farley be 3/4 of what we think he can, this secondary is going to go into a new atmosphere. I really think so.
Yeah.
Do you guys wish Brady Breeze worked out as much as I do? I really wanted Brady Breeze to work out
love
so
Brady
bad.
Breeze.
I didn't know Brady Breeze wasn't with the Titans until I saw him in another team's uniform, and I was like, what in the heck? I missed that somewhere.
He's a Lion.
Oh.
I just had to look and see who he played for. I was thinking, I was like, I don't think he's a Titan now. No, he's wearing like number 15 for the Lions now.
Yeah, that ruins him for me.
I felt so bad for Detroit last year when I was looking at their roster towards the start of the season, and Khalif Raymond was slotted as their number 1 receiver. And I was like,
I don't know if that's Khalif hate. I'm not assuming it is, but let me tell you, and I'm not one of these guys that's like, oh, I met so-and-so. Khalif was one of the few players I've met at training camp that I Khalif is my favorite NFL player ever. Dude was humble as crap, the nicest guy to talk to, and I was like, dude, I'm pulling for you to make this 53. And so I was all in that preseason, and he made that 53. He made some clutch catches. I will never forget the bomb we stopped
that Baltimore game. Oh my gosh!
Fourth and goal or 4th down in the middle of the field. Next play, Arthur Smith draws up the bomb to Khalif. That's Khalif's my guy, but yeah, Khalif as a starter is just not it. But I can say Brady Breeze. I like the style of play and I like the player. I'm gonna have bias against Brady Breeze just because I felt like Trey Smith was a guy that Tennessee could have afforded to take in that position. And I'm wearing orange colored glasses, go Vols, but Trey Smith has turned out to be quite an impressive player who's, I believe, is starting for KC.
Mm-hmm.
He's protecting Patrick Mahomes, and that's just a guy, like, looking back, it's always great to have O-line depth, and I would have loved to see him in Tennessee. So I would have rather seen him over Brady Breeze, and that's one of those things where I'm like, I'm guilty of saying, well, we should have because Brady didn't work out here anyway. But
I wonder, though, because this is something I've seen. Tennessee, it seems like when they draft offensive linemen, they like to go because when they go for bigger school guys, they don't seem to work out as much. Like, of course, Lawan worked out with Michigan. That's a bigger school. And then
Conklin also worked out.
I don't think it talked about enough.
Conklin worked out, and I believe didn't he go to
He went to Michigan
Cleveland.
State.
Michigan State? Yes.
I
Okay.
thought you were meaning left too, Ben.
Conklin worked out too well. They couldn't afford him.
Okay, so what I'm getting to is like you draft Chance Warmack from Alabama, doesn't work out. You draft what's his name? Isaiah Wilson from Georgia, doesn't work out. And then okay, you get two small school guys in Nate Davis from Charlotte, and he works out. So that's what I'm saying. Like I've seen them draft more of like smaller school guys. Like when they took Dylan Reduns, he was from North Dakota State. I don't know if that's like taking the player that's available to you, or if that's like them seeing more like of a chance in being a good. Like if you're good at a smaller school, that's because you were good, not because of the coaching staff.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Agree with that.
The whole concept of drafting smaller school guys is iffy because of the argument with their competition and whatnot. But I see where you're coming from. I don't necessarily agree. I'm not one that necessarily buys into the competition bullshit. Like Christian Watson coming out of North Dakota State, he was one of my top receivers in this class, and I don't think it's because of the competition he was playing against. I think he's just that guy. I think he's incredibly athletic, very versatile, and whatnot. So I see where you're coming from. I agree to a certain extent. One question I have for you guys, we kind of touched on him for like a moment. I can't remember who brought him up. But losing Dane Crookshank, how big of an impact do you think that's going to play on this Tennessee defense, considering he was like, what's the nickname? The tight end eraser is what they call him?
Yeah. What he was being called, yes.
Yeah, so
I don't think it hurts that much. It does hurt. It doesn't feel good, but I don't think it hurts that much. Like I don't think it's a handicap losing him.
Right.
I think the Bears are getting a great player in Dane Crookshank. I just think that Theo Jackson fills that role so well.
Gotcha.
That it's just kind of those plug and play late round guys. Speaking of the Bears, wanted real quick again with my Vols. What's your take on Bayless Jones? I know a lot of Bears are giving him hate. Don't hate on my 25-year-old rookie.
I like Bayless. I'm a big Bayless guy. He the big thing with him is Chicago after the catch last year was like last in the league. Like they were abysmal, god awful. So bringing him in with his playmaking ability after the catch, what he can do with the ball in his hands, that's huge for Chicago. He's the type of guy that you can get the ball to quick, let him do his thing, and Chicago needs that with the type of quick offense they're going to be running, very play action heavy, Shanahan-inspired type situation. He's nothing more than a gadget guy, but like with that type of offense, you need a guy that can do that. Yeah. However, I would feel a lot better if he was like our wide receiver 4 or 5 and not our wide receiver 3.
Which is what I love, which is what I'm kind of like looking at, is Tennessee really doesn't have that guy that can do stuff like
Burks. It's kind of like Burks' thing.
Well, what I'm meaning is like they don't have like a deep shot guy. A guy that's got exceptional speed.
I got you. I see what you mean. I thought you meant a gadgety guy. Yeah, they don't really have a speedster.
Yeah, this whole idea that like Traylon is gonna like take the top off defenses kind of baffles me. It's not that I think he's gonna be like a tight end slow, but like you watch him run and they're like, well, he's like AJ Brown. Yes, there are times you look like you blink and AJ is past the corner and he somehow beat him downfield. I don't think Traylon's gonna be that exact player. Yeah. And I just don't think he's like your deep shot guy. Robert Woods obviously isn't. Like, who is?
Yeah, you don't really have one.
We really don't.
Logan Woodside.
What's Logan Woodside's speed in Madden? I'm sure it's good enough to move him to receiver.
96.
The only guy we've really got on the team that has any sort of like deep shot ability is an undrafted guy. We got it out of SMU, Reggie Roberson Jr.
Yeah. I don't want to have to depend on an undrafted free agent to be my deep threat.
No, I want us to go out and get somebody.
Yeah. Who can you really get though? Like Will Fuller?
That's what I want.
You don't know if he's going to be healthy is the only thing.
We're not. So I don't think that we can pay Will Fuller. Yeah. I don't think that we have the money and the assets to give Amy Will Fuller.
No, he's a free agent now.
Is he? Well, then we just don't have the money for him.
Right.
I don't think.
Maybe I'm wrong in my assessment, but I was looking back at that draft class. Guy I really liked. Obviously, Jamison Williams would have been someone who would have added a whole other dimension to the Titans offense. I knew he wouldn't fall that far. But once we got to that point where we were in the second round, third round, I loved John Metchi. And so it hurt so bad to see John Metchi go to the Texans in the division. But someone like John Metchi, who's just like a special, just like you can't teach speed. It's just there. And the Titans need that. And I know we're a physical. We're gonna punch you in the mouth. We're gonna run the ball.
You still need somebody that can stretch the field.
Gotta have somebody to stretch the field.
Yeah.
Can I bring up
Speed doesn't equal a star, though. So that would John Ross is that having speed does not make you a good football player.
No, but he's not talking about being your number one guy. He's saying is like a gadgety third or fourth guy that's just there to stretch the field.
I'm just saying when you have Robert Woods and Traylon Burks lining up at 1 and 2, the secondary doesn't have to respect the very far back in. They're like, okay, we'll keep him in front of us. It's just
could have went with Christian Watson. Could have traded back.
If we had Christian Watson, we'd have been fine.
So I've got a question. Everybody agrees that the Titans' window to win a Super Bowl is between 2 to 3 years. Do y'all agree with that?
If that.
1 to 2.
You could use the window just closed last year.
I think so too. Yeah. Certainly.
Yeah, I would say it's tough.
It's an argument to be had.
Titans are a weird team to like. They're going to be a good football team, but once you get past like being a playoff caliber team, it's really, really hard to project how far they can go because they really don't have like the high-powered offense. I mean, obviously, other than King Henry, they don't have the high-powered offense to keep up with like Mahomes or Herbert or Allen. Like you can't expect Ryan Tannehill to outduel them. And as good as that defense is, those guys are just going to make plays that nobody's going to be able to stop. And if it comes down to Tannehill versus Mahomes in a shootout, Tannehill doesn't stand a goddamn chance, especially not with the core he has.
Tannehill didn't have a chance against Joe Burrow. Okay, so let's just put that. Don't even talk about Mahomes yet. And I'm not no disrespect to Joe Burrow, but he's one of those guys who's just like, okay, here's another rookie who's just come out and he's better than Tannehill. You just keep falling down the list of QB hierarchy in the AFC. Right. If you don't have the guy, you don't have the guy. And we hope Malik Willis is that guy, but I don't see Malik Willis being that developed, even close to a superstar. I'm not saying he can't be, but I don't see that happening. I would have to see another rebuild around Malik Willis to get to that point.
Yeah. I would probably say their window's closed. I would go with that route most likely.
The frustrating thing about that playoff game, I'm sitting there. I'm moving, so I'm not a season ticket holder anymore. But I'm sitting there for that playoff game, and it's just Bengals fans all around us. We really thought we're going to put them down, and it wasn't a convincing run to the number one overall seed, but we felt confident. King Henry, you should have heard that stadium when King Henry comes out of the tunnel. The energy was there. And what does Ryan Tannehill do? The first freaking play is throw a pick, and you felt like the air just left the stadium, and nothing was the same the rest of the night. Nothing seemed to work, and I left. That's probably the worst gut feeling I've ever had leaving a game. It's never easy to see a playoff loss. Certainly the Ravens in 2020, they had their revenge on us, and that hurt to see. But to walk out the way they did with even a game-winning field goal in range, and Tannehill just to choke it away, it just felt like everything crumbled, and he thought that was really the team that could have done it with AJ, with Julio, who we don't know what he could have done in the playoffs. Maybe he did nothing. But it really seemed like, and I'll be the first one, when Julio was traded for, I was like, this is it. Like, this is their moment. They've got King Henry. Let's go. Let's do this. And coming out of that playoff loss, I think now that we're getting closer to training camp and people are going to try to put this positive spin on it, and I'm not saying it's going to be a bad season, but I just think Tannehill is not enough, and it's a QB-driven league. We can, talk about that ad nauseum. But if you don't have the guy, you
do have the guy. He's just listed as the third quarterback on your depth chart.
Logan Woodside. Colten hates Logan Woodside. We had to bring him up as much as possible.
See, my thing is like we're so good against good teams. We beat Buffalo. We beat Kansas City. We beat all these really good. Look how good we did against Kansas City last year. I understand that Patrick was in a slump when we played them last year, but I can't get over the fact of how good we are against good teams. And it's like when we play a good team, Ryan flips a switch and he's like, I'm not going to make mistakes this game. But when we play bad teams is when he throws 4 interceptions, or when we play the Jets, he can't move the ball.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of Kirk Cousins.
Hey, but give the Bengals respect. Bengals were a good team. I think they just were slept on. They had all the right pieces. They had momentum.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase is someone I wish I had on the Titans. They just had a good team that I think we all underestimated.
That
And so now they're
Bengals game, the
probably
play calling in that Bengals game was so terrible.
It was. And I think, and I wanted to hit that too. The coaching staff, we kind of touched on both sides of the ball. The coaching staff, behind Mike Vrabel, I'm not really confident in either coordinator. I know that, what's the
Shane
Keith?
Bowen.
Shane Bowen. I know that he got a lot of grief in 2020, and so he kind of improved his case in 2021. I am not confident in Todd Downing whatsoever.
No,
I think
that's
all
why.
of his,
If I'm being honest, that's why I think they would sign a guy like Tim Kelly to come in and at least try to put in some help. Because when Kelly was in Houston, he had a I think it was top 10 offense with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think this is Todd Downing's last chance to get something right. And then Vrabel's not in risk of losing his job, but I think they could easily switch up coordinators if they had to.
Yeah.
I was going to bring this up earlier when we were talking about Arthur Smith. When Arthur Smith leaves Tennessee, he goes to Atlanta. And then out of retirement, in my opinion, comes one of the best defensive coaches of all time in Dean Pease. So Dean Pease was the defensive coordinator for Tennessee when at some point when Vrabel was there. At any point, he ends up retiring. And apparently there was some Vrabel wanted to run defensive plays. Like he wanted to call defensive plays. And that's why Pease would end up retiring. So I think that having a lost weight, we could have really good coordinators. We could have Arthur Smith as our offensive coordinator and Dean Pease, who's a Hall of Fame coach, as our defensive coordinator. I think those are really good coordinators, and you lose out on having both of them. I'm not blaming Mike Vrabel for that, but
right.
I think there's something to be said there, and I'll touch on it real quick. I know we're trying to wrap it up probably, but to as much as I love Mike Vrabel, there was a whole story that happened, and I have to refresh myself on it. But basically, in that second half of the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs, where the Titans fall apart, there's some conspiracy, if you want to call it that, from some former players, based on comments they said or things they didn't say, that basically made you believe that Vrabel took that game over in the second half. And sometimes Vrabel's narcissistic behavior gets the best of him. I think that's kind of what happened with Dean Pease. I know Wesley Woodyard had some words about it. And I don't know that Wesley Woodyard left on the best note either. I don't know how that all worked out. I know that Jarrell, I don't think what they did to Jarrell was right at the time. I know looking back, whatever. But there were some things that I think in that offseason, just some of the things with Vrabel, I like Vrabel, but you can definitely tell. Think about Todd Downing. He basically can only promote from within because you don't see a lot of coaches from around the outside of the league want to be a coordinator under him. I don't know if that means dude's super hard to work, but it's something to monitor going forward because we've seen some difficulty in finding replacements for coordinators to leave.
I think it doesn't help that you had probably one of the best defensive coordinators of all time on your team, and he leaves because you want to argue with him at the AFC Championship. I don't think that's good for other coaches wanting to come in.
Yeah,
that's fair. Just to ask, I don't maybe that you're going to take this one, David, but if we're going to preview, what is your opinion on I hate record predictions, but what bracket do you have them in? I think you have the Colts winning the division, but where do you have them in the playoff race, that kind of thing? What can we look forward to as Titans fans, in your opinion?
It's like I said, the Titans are a weird team once you kind of get to that playoff area because in my opinion, the AFC got a lot better. They had a renaissance basically with talent coming in. And to me, the Titans were one of the teams that just didn't meet that. I mean, you look at all the guys going out. You lose A.J. Brown, you lose two of your starting linebackers, you lose Roger Saffold, you lose Julio Jones, Kari Blasingame, Dane Crookshank. You lost a bunch of talent. And in return, you get Austin Hooper and your draft picks, and we don't know what they're going to be. Obviously, Traylon Burks, you're hoping he can be somebody great, but kind of like me and you have discussed, we're not super high on him. We think he's more of I don't want to say a gadget guy, but he's not going to be a number one receiver long term. You look at Roger McCreary, I think he's going to be solid. Petit Frere, you don't think he's going to play much. Willis, we talked about. We went through it. They didn't add enough talent for what they lost, in my opinion. And then you're looking at Derrick Henry coming back off an injury. We saw what Ryan Tannehill went through, and we heard him in the offseason talking about how bad that affected his mental health. So we don't know where he's at mentally when he comes back to the position, because who knows, maybe he's getting flashbacks, maybe he's really, really struggling with, the pressure he went under last year. It's tough. It's tough. I don't know. I have this team winning like 8 or 9 games, maybe at most. Maybe there's a world where they win like 11. I would say I'm not a huge fan of record predictions either, but making content, I kind of have to because that's what the people want. I think I have them right around 8 wins would be my prediction, but I could see a world where they end up in the playoffs with 11 or 12.
I think
that's my prediction is 10 to 12.
Yeah.
I think this year the AFC South, and it will be the Colts and the Titans head to head, and we'll be watching them like we do every season in a race to like week 17 and 18.
Right.
But I think this year division winner is 12-5, second is 11-6, and I think you can flip them if the Titans really show out, and maybe Matt Ryan isn't what people think he's going to be. I could just see those flip flopped. Maybe the Colts if they're really high rolling, 13-4. But I see it being a very close race in the AFC between the Titans and Colts.
Yeah, I
think we see Matt Ryan go down before we see Titans win 11 games.
Yeah.
I don't think we see the Titans win more than 10 games.
Yeah.
I don't like saying that, but I think that the only way that happens is if Matt Ryan goes down.
Yeah, and it's Titans got a tough schedule if I remember correctly.
It's not easy. No.
Yeah. Oh, looks like we got the Ravens, Bucks, Cardinals are kind of. Oh, never mind. That's preseason. Giants, Bills, Raiders, Colts twice, Commanders, Texans twice, Chiefs, Broncos, Packers, Bengals, Eagles, Jaguars, Chargers, Cowboys. Like it's not an easy schedule. There's not a lot of gimme games there other than like the Jaguars and the Texans. You can look at those as like pushover, even though I don't think the Texans are as bad as a lot of people want to think they are. But you're looking at the AFC West. You're dealing with the Packers. You're dealing with the Bills.
I think
it's rough.
Personally, I think one of our easier games is Week 1 against the Giants. I think that's easier
than
the Texans games.
Yeah.
But I think you look at that schedule and the temptation. I saw it last year. We want to say, hey, it's a tough, and it is a tough schedule. I look back at last year though, and the thing about these Titans is they find a way to surprise you mid-season, and
find a way to win.
The narrative can change so drastically. Last season, we saw this stretch of like Colts twice, Rams, Chiefs, and you're like, oh my gosh, if they can go 1-3, that's a miracle, or 2-2, and they come out 4-0 or 3-1 or something like that.
Right.
And it kind of changes
4-0.
Yeah,
and the expectations. We could see something like that again.
I get that. There's a lot of teams that you can say stuff like that for. It's just if you're trying to go on a baseline prediction, it's kind of hard to assume something like that's going to go down. So yeah, if that happens, maybe they hit that ceiling of like 11 or 12 wins. But realistically, if we're going off what's on paper, not counting any sort of, I don't want to say like magic runs, but like unexpected kind of out of the blue Titans just playing up to their competition or whatever. If we're not going off that, I really don't see more than like 8 or 9 wins.
You have making the playoffs?
No,
don't.
In the AFC, 8 or 9 wins is not enough to make the playoffs right now.
Oh, no, it's not.
I think they would be like the first or second team out. As unfortunate that is, and that's like the worst place to be because you're not going to get a high draft pick, but you're also not in the playoffs. You're kind of in that middle.
Yeah.
And
all right, do we have time for me to run one more thing? I was going to run one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Okay. So when we were talking about like the window close, I was going to ask this earlier. If we have realistically, we kind of only have 1 to 2 years before everybody's contract's up. Would it be worth? Because this is what the reason for extending Derek I've heard is that if you extend him now, you free up a lot of money now to go out and get more pieces to win now. That's what I've heard. That would be their reason to do that is because you free up a lot of money now.
I guess who are we getting now who's going to vastly improve the team is I guess where I would say. I mean, receiver, but I feel like if you're getting anyone of real worth, you're going to have to give up the draft capital, and J-Rob doesn't want to do that.
Yeah, it's tough.
Where I mean, I want as bad as anybody to go out and get some big name free agent that can help. I just don't know there's anybody out there who just like, oh, yep. There's not a Julio Jones for us this year that's going to like in theory, solve everything like we
Yeah.
thought Julio would.
Well,
No,
I mean,
what do y'all think about the rumors that apparently like people have been talking about Julio coming back to Tennessee? Do you think
I
there's
don't think
any,
it
like,
happens. I think if anything, he's going
No.
to Indianapolis back to Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
Either there or
That would-
like Green Bay. That would be my
I
prediction.
see him
for
retiring before I see him retiring before coming back to Tennessee.
Yeah.
I don't think there's as much bad blood there as people think there is.
Even if it's not bad blood, I just don't think he wants to go to that situation. He's a guy that's going to be chasing a ring, and that's not where you go if you want to chase a ring.
The Hall of Famer that wants a ring.
Yeah.
Is how it is.
Yeah. So like I said, Green Bay or Indianapolis would be my prediction for Julio.
There are plenty of
Bay
teams.
even. I wouldn't be surprised with that.
Yeah. I guess with Godwin coming off a torn ACL, I could see that. Although you kind of just have two of the same receiver on the outside. You don't really have a lot of versatility with Mike Evans and Julio.
Yeah.
Didn't they get Russell Gage?
Yeah, but he's like a third guy. I don't know. It's
You're a fourth guy behind Miller.
Yeah, Scotty Miller.
I think we'll see this year. This year is maybe more of a telltale than we want to think it is, as far as if Titans underwhelm. Let's say we're sitting in week 15, week 16, and Titans are a 7-win ball club, which is very reasonable to think. At that point, we have to assume that Ryan Tannehill's had another year like last year, and I think at that point the cap situation is they could stomach cutting him, and so I could see Malik starting next year under that circumstance.
Yeah,
but I think if
That's
Ryan
what
has,
I think if Ryan has, likely.
Yeah, if he has any kind of like, if Ryan Tannehill takes him to the playoffs again, they're not going to cut him. They can't do that. I think they're just that safe of a franchise. But if we barely miss the playoffs, I could see them just being like, all right, let's just do it over again. Let's just give the reins to Malik. Hope he learned enough in year one and offseason number 2 before we march him out in 2023.
I think no matter what happens, our number 1 draft pick next year is going towards receiver.
Yeah. If you guys suck,
receivers are in next year's draft.
There's a lot. Jackson Smith, the Jigba, Jordan Addison, Josh Downs. It's a good receiver class.
I don't follow college ball very much.
Me neither.
I only know the receivers because the guys I rely on Bears Twitter are like going off about them because obviously the Bears receiver core is abysmal. And I was talking. Hold on, I did the Texans preview and I was talking to Brett Coleman. And he was very much hyping up Jordan Addison as like the next great thing. So this receiver class is going to be nice.
Speaking of the Bears, I thought a good project for the Titans would be trading for N'Keal Harry, giving a change of scenery. You don't actually end up spending a lot on him.
Yeah.
And I think it would be
N'Keal Harry. His name's Treylon Burks.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, even if you don't want to, like, I'm not trying to knock Burks' talent, but it's the same player. Burks is just a little bit. What's the word I want to look? I need a technical term. He's a little more wiggly. Like he can move a little bit better. Wiggly's not the technical term for it, but he can move a little bit better.
Technical term?
Yeah, elusive.
Elusive. Not even elusive. It's the way his hips move very well. His hips are fluid. That's the word I was looking for. He's a more fluid runner than N'Keal Harry. I said wiggly. Yeah.
There's like I've seen stuff all over about like us trading for receivers. I don't feel like we would do that either.
Yeah, I don't even know who's really on the receiver market right now to be looking at.
They're not worried about trading. They already we're marching towards training camp and we're going with the guys we got.
Marching towards training camp, praying that boy Denzel.
Logan Woodside works out.
Traylon doesn't need those.
We've got a lot of young receivers that need to see the field anyway. So
yeah, it's I don't know. I want to be confident in Treylon Burks because, like I said, he's not a guy that's going to take the top off the defense. I think Colten hit the nail on the head with that one. But he's a very fluid guy now that I know the word for it. And once you can get the ball in his hands, he runs like a running back. He's very much in that Deebo Samuel archetype, so to speak. I don't think he'll ever be as good as Deebo, but it's the same, brand of player. And if they can make him work, by all means, he can be a nice number 2, but he's not going to be your number 1 guy. And you got to figure that out before long. And you got to get a deep threat because you don't have one at all on this team.
Just a question. Does anybody know like the contract link that we have Robert Woods for?
I think it's a long contract, but they can get out of it next year, I believe. I was just thinking about that. I think Robert Woods is a 2-year max Titan. If things go south this year, he's cut after this year because you're still gonna. I think the expectation is to draft their number 1 receiver next year, regardless. So whether or not they're keeping Robert Woods as a veteran to bring him along or what. Point is, though, I think Robert Woods has like a $14 million cap hit. The Rams are really trying to get out from under a lot of money with that move for only a 6th round. You got to think about that. So eventually, I don't see really. I'm not confident in him past this year, to be honest with you, to be on the team, just because the money isn't probably going to be worth the production.
I think we're legit Super Bowl contenders if we have AJ on this team. AJ Burks and Robert Woods.
I wouldn't say that. I definitely would not say that. You're still Listen, I know we keep shitting on you. I don't mean to keep raining on your parade. I feel really bad because every time something's come out of your mouth, it's just kind of like we're all like, no.
Like, you love this team too much. It's okay.
Yeah. You're a little, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a little bit. You're a bit more optimistic than the three of us are, and that's fine. I respect it. I feel that to a certain extent, but no, I don't think there's a world where this team's a contender, even if AJ Brown was still on it.
And the Titans are contender. The Bears are contenders.
All right, let's not stretch it that far. Okay. Although I don't know, the Bears just got Kari Blasingame. I guess we are contenders.
Yeah.
Only they can get Logan Woodside.
Kari Blasingame and Nathan Peterman make you a contender.
Yeah, we don't need Logan Woodside. We have Nathan Peterman. We win. We also have Trevor Siemian. So.
I want to see.
Yeah, Trevor Siemian, my favorite.
I wanted to see how AJ does in Philly. I want him to do well for his sake, just because I think, going back to where we started with, I think that whole situation got out of hand. I'm glad he's playing with Jalen Hurts, his buddies, and he's with Devontae Smith. That's all great and fine. I will say this. There were lots of times that AJ can have very thin skin on Twitter, and I'm just like, if you think the Nashville fans were bad, get ready for Philly when you drop that.
Oh, my God. If he drops a single pass, he's going to be dead on the street. Imagine he gets the Jalen Reagor treatment.
Why did we cut Travis Fulgham?
I know there's going to be a Twitter account. The first time AJ Brown messes up, that's the tweet that's going to get sent out. There's going to be Travis Fulgham praise. And oh, my God. All right, well.
AJ's one of those. I'm glad. I hate to see him go as the talent, but the Twitter I can do without.
Yeah, I get that. Now, unless there were any players that you guys wanted to briefly hit on, we don't need another full conversation, but if there was some guy that we missed over that you want to at least give attention to, you can, but I think we're about done if not.
Ben Jones is the best center in football.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I've wanted to touch on Ben Jones too. He's a guy like Logan Woodside who somehow is just there. He's better than Logan Woodside. I'm not saying that, but
Ben Jones is just fat Logan Woodside.
Yeah, no. But Ben Jones, I'm looking back, like Ben Jones, I think was there the first year of J-Rob's tenure. I think we're going on like year 6 or 7 with Ben Jones, and he's just been a really consistent guy that doesn't get enough love. But he's
every time I think of Ben Jones, I think of there was this image taken where he had like a broken nose and like his hand was bleeding and he was still playing. And I think that's like the most hard-nosed thing I've ever seen.
Well, there's not much nose to be hard at that point.
Yeah, it's kind of a soft nose if you think about it.
It's a little squishy.
I think that there's only 1 or 2 centers that you could put above Jones.
The Logan Woodside.
Logan Woodside is the best center in the NFL.
Logan Woodside, future first team All-Pro. I'll make sure to put Logan Woodside on the thumbnail and put his Twitter in the description.
At Logan Woodside, yeah, exactly.
Jersey. As soon as I get off, I'm going to go order the jersey from the pro shop. Wear it at the games.
How much is
Can you buy the Logan Woodside jersey?
You can probably buy a custom jersey and just do like Logan.
Yeah, you have to
Woodside
do custom, but you can get Woodside.
Yeah,
you can rock the number 5.
Oh my God, he's going to do it. All right, well, Wiley does that. I think that about wraps it up. First and foremost, thank you guys so much for coming on. Oh my God.
StrongNFLshop.com. Let's go.
Okay.
Doing it.
And 65% off your purchase.
Damn. Awesome. All right.
Yeah, got it.
Thank you guys so much for coming on here. I really appreciate it. This was a ton of fun, mainly because of Logan Woodside, but you guys are great. if you guys want to plug anything, I know Cass has a YouTube channel where he does stuff, but if there's anything else you guys want to plug, go ahead and do it, even if it's just your personal Twitter, whatever you want to do.
I'm actually a stand-up comic.
Okay.
And you can follow me on TikTok and YouTube at Noah Crow Comedy, as well at Twitter at self_turkeys. Don't ask why, I don't remember.
Valid. And other two guys, Colten and Cass.
Yeah, I don't have anything to plug. I'm pretty much a nobody on social media, but hey, I just wanted to just say thank you for having me on. It's my first ever pod, and so it was a fun one.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely,
talking my
man.
Titans, and so it's just really pleasure to have talked with you guys. You hoping just another great year for the Titans. I'll see y'all in February. We're hosting Lombardi because I'm an optimistic fan. So.
All right. Enough of your nonsense, Cass. If you want to plug your stuff.
I do some Titans YouTube stuff from like anything Titans. I do anywhere from like hype videos to player breakdowns where I break down like what they've done for us and stuff. So you can find that on like Cass, and you just type CASS into the YouTube search, and sometimes my stuff will pop up. So.
All right, I'll make sure to have links to everything down in the description below. Cass, make sure you send me the link to the Logan Woodside video so we can have that specifically. That needs to be in the description.
Yeah.
And also, just one last thing. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'll send that to you right now.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, if you guys want to send your links in the Discord chat, it'll make it easier for me to just copy and paste it. But I do have one more question I want to ask you on camera real quick. It's a very quick question. Don't let this turn into a full conversation. I just need a name. So my goal for this podcast next offseason is to have one jersey from almost every single team, except for the other three teams in the NFC North, right? And I'm probably going to have to be cheap and get bootleg jerseys. I'm fully aware of that because I know that's like the number one comment is like, oh, you think you're going to be able to afford that? Whatever. And I want to make sure that every single player that I get is a fullback. Now, other than Kari, is there any fullback that's ever played for the Titans that you think should be in consideration for this jersey?
Is it Jalston Fowler?
Yeah,
Fowler.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Jalston
who I would
Fowler.
get.
Okay.
That's who I would
Jalston
get.
Fowler.
Outside of Logan Woodside, that's who I would get.
Wait. Yeah, Jalston Fowler. I was gonna say, but Jalston Fowler, yeah.
All right. Well, maybe I'll make an exception. I'll just make sure to have you three back on, and I'll be rocking the Logan Woodside jersey. But anyways, that's going to do it for this episode. Make sure to leave a like and comment down below, whether or not we missed over a player or you disagree with a take on one of the players we mentioned. Obviously, we were pretty negative about Treylon Burks. Maybe you're a bigger Burks fan than we were. Let us know in the comments. Let us know how you think the Titans are going to do, or just simply praise Logan Woodside. Whatever suits your fancy, just leave a comment down below. And sure to subscribe. We're pushing for 250 subscribers by the start of the NFL season, and we're like right around 190 right now, so we're getting close. We're getting there. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, night, evening, whatever time of day